If we could come to order, please. Are there any public comments? May I have an approval of the minutes, please? These are for April 21st and June 27th and 29th, I'd like to remind you. Okay. Minutes are approved. Any changes to the work plan?
There are no changes to the work plan. The only difference is that for next year, there will not be a presentation on the DBE goal plan because we did the 3-year goal last June. However, if you recall, at the last time I said that since the capital program had not been funded, once those funding decisions are made, we may have to come back and see if there is any adjustments needed to be made to the goal plan. And if it is, then we will put that on the agenda, and then we will come before the committee to it.
Could you give us a report one way or another?
Absolutely.
So that I think it's appropriate because we'll have a new chair in the coming year, and it's nice to be updated on how those goals are set.
In which month, though, would you like us
As soon as you are able to know how the budget's going to go. I think we need the budget information in order to really do it.
Certainly.
Outreach events and diversity programs. Who's going to speak? Is Zenaida speaking?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. You can see that we are at the end of the year, and the presentation that you see is the remainder of the outreach initiatives from October through December, which include some in-house events, the Small Business Development Training Program, which is currently taking place right now, which has 30 to 35 mentors in that program. The different various luncheons and dinners that our office attends, and this is all in an effort to be able to attract and identify firms that can come and do business with the agencies. This October, we attended a conference in Albany, which is now called 2011 New York State NWBE Conference and Exposition. It was formerly called the DASNY Conference, which is led by the Dormitory Authority, and it attracted over 1,000 attendees. This is one of our largest conferences that we attend throughout the year, in addition to the Competitive Edge in August. We are now currently working on an in-house event, which is the new one. Maybe Mike can tell you a little bit more about it, but it's the New York City Bus Supplier Diversity Outreach event that's going to take place in December. As you can see, it's here in November, but we've moved it back to December. The planning process is going to take longer. This is going to be a matchmaking event with 5 of our companies that provide buses, coaches for us, and about 60 to 70 firms that are going to be invited to this event. It's going to take place at 2 Broadway, 20th floor, and we're still in the planning phase. Tomorrow is our meeting, so we're going to kind of iron it out and kind of finalize the invites.
Yes, this is an event that we had talked to all of our subway and bus manufacturers about creating a MTA Minority Supplier Development Program that's modeled after the big 3 automakers. And Transit is taking the lead on the first segment, and we're bringing in five of our bus manufacturers. We're calling the MWBE population statewide, telling them that this event is going to create synergies that's going to lead to contract opportunities. And so this one is being done in December. The first quarter of next year, we're going to do the same thing with all of our subway manufacturers as well.
And we need to do it for the commuter rails.
Great. So, as I said, we're winding down now to our very busy year that we have had. I can say that we've had an extremely busy year with all of our in-house and the increases on the mentor programs and the different outreach events that we have kind of initiated, and we've come to like about over 70 events that we have put out this year, reaching out to our minority firms. Thank you.
Before we move on to the slide on outreach initiatives, I'm sorry, the diversity programs. Actually, I beg your pardon. For the diversity program, after we go through the slide, there is an event that Metro North is sponsoring tomorrow, and I think Wendy Watt wanted to speak about that. So perhaps do you want to start?
I was going to mention that.
Okay.
Do you want to, Gwen?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
All right. Well, you're all officially invited. We're having the fourth of our Diversity Awareness Month celebrations tomorrow in Grand Central Terminal. The previous three, the first one was held at New Haven, the second was at Croton Harmon, the third was at North White Plains last week. These have been highly attended by employees, and I understand about 40 employees are preparing food tomorrow. And this is being hosted by our newly launched Inclusion Council. So those are 12 employees from across the ranks, agreement and non-agreement at Metro North Railroad, led by 2 co-facilitators. And this month is kind of their kickoff, if you will. So we brought a poster to share with you, and hopefully you can all join us from 11:30 to 1:30 for lunch tomorrow.
And this is located in the, I always forget the name of the room,
This will be in Vanderbilt Hall.
in the Vanderbilt
East.
Hall. Well, we've seen that announced in the information we get about Vanderbilt. So I was going to ask what it was all about and whether or not I got invited.
I understand that there was an email glitch because you were certainly intended to be invited, and so I'm here bringing that message personally.
Well, thank you. I want to encourage the committee members to attend some of these diversity outreach events. I was happy enough to be able to go to Bridges and Tunnels 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, the Hispanic program, and it's always fun, and sometimes it's very touching, and I found this one to be very touching when I learned about employees' families.
Well, actually, Gwen has.
That's okay, you know. We'll just read the slide real quickly. Thank you, Susan, for attending the Hispanic Heritage Month diversity event. That event was put on with MTA HQ. New York City Transit also participated, as well as Bridges and Tunnel. And that event occurred in September. Wendy has already spoken about the October event for Metro North, and for MTA and New York City Transit, they also observed the domestic violence. We had a domestic violence observance. In November, we have a very exciting diversity event planned, and to celebrate Veterans Day, we have invited the Tuskegee Airmen to come in as part of our Veterans Day celebration. So we would love to have you there. We are also inviting some of the cast from a play that's off Broadway called Black Angels Over Tuskegee. As you may know or may not know, the Tuskegee Airmen there's a depot, New York City Transit 100th Street Depot is being renamed to Tuskegee Airmen Depot. So we thought it befitting to celebrate with them this historic event. So and that will be occurring here in the boardroom, November 15th. We are finalizing the plans. We've already gotten confirmation that the Tuskegee Airmen will be in attendance for that event. In December, MTA headquarters is going to be celebrating an International Dessert Day. That will take place here in this room, 347 Madison, 5th floor. And Long Island Railroad will be having a Diversity Council holiday celebration.
I didn't get to finalize in time, but on December 19th, we're going to have an event. Bridges and Tunnels will present the history of the Orchard Pavilion. This was a contribution of our patriarch, Robert Moses. Orchard Beach, for well, when I first became aware of it, was the Puerto Rican beach, the place where working class people would come and spend the day with their families and eat rice and peas and play the drums. And it's an event that will focus on the pavilion and its historic contributions to the city. So that'll be December 19th at 2 Broadway, and we'll be sending out the flyers and information to you, and hope that you can attend.
Again, I encourage board members to do this. It's always fun.
Celebrating the pavilion at 2 Broadway?
Yes, sir.
I heard that right.
Yes, sir.
If I may add also that Metro North is having a Veterans Day celebration on Veterans Day also in the terminal. So that
When is your celebration?
the 11th of November, Friday, in Grand Central.
Good afternoon. All right. This meeting, I'm going to report on a 4-month period because the last time I spoke about April and May because it was prior to the end of the second quarter. So this time we have a little bit of the second quarter and all of the third quarter. In terms of applications, we received 15 in June, 7 in July, 11 in August, 9 in September, for a total of 42. What we have here is a comparison of the applications received from 2008 through 2011. And you can see there's been ebbs and flows. In 2008, we had just a low of 23 applications, whereas in 2009, we had 60. 2010 and 2011 are comparable, 43 in 2010 and 42 in 2011. As of today, I've received 7 additional applications from the time this report was prepared, and they're still coming in. In terms of the actual determinations, we certified 26 firms, denied 5, 3 firms withdrew their applications, and 11 applications were returned. That gave us a total of 45 certification determinations that were made during 2011 for the 4-month period. Again, comparing that to 2008, 2009, 2010, you can see there has been an increase, whereas in 2008 there was a low of 17, 2009 33, 2010 36, and 2011 45. They continue to increase. One of the things I did want to mention is that we did undergo another audit by, our most recent audit rather, by the U.S. Department of Transportation, Office of the Inspector General, and they were absolutely thrilled with the certification process and our files, and said they have been the best they've seen so far, and they want to use much of what we do for best practices.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The number I love to see is how you've improved the number of certifications that you've completed through the years. I realize you're doing it with strapped staff and more applications. And the committee needs to understand that not only are they expanding the number of new certifications that are being made, but they're maintaining the updating of the old certifications. Right. So it's a lot more than 45 here. It's everybody that's already certified that has to be looked at again.
On an annual basis. Yes.
Let me also say that you know, like certification is one thing, and the numbers are going up because there's an external sense right now that the MTA is open for business for all firms. And that being said, the challenge is now is once these firms are in fact certified, and we are having every quarter all the firms who are certified, we bring them in for a orientation session with all of the operating agencies, and they learn about the contract opportunities at each one of those agencies. And so it's one thing to certify firms, it's a different thing to integrate these firms into the business processes at each one of the operating agencies.
You know, I think that some of the firms that have been certified long in the past might profit by the opportunity of coming in to attend one of those sessions. You know, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I know you have a large number of certified organizations, but we've got some that have been with us a long time and they've maintained their certification. It might be good to give them another opportunity to get to know new staff and and who's who at the agencies again.
But with that, Susan, we, throughout the year, have our in-house events where we invite all certified MWDBE firms to come and meet and greet our primes and our agency reps. So where you see the MTA, we start in January with the contracting, we do suppliers, we break it down to the different specialties, and we give them all an opportunity to come in throughout the year.
So they do have that chance?
Yes.
Well, that's good. I'm very glad to hear that. And on to the civil rights, the mid-year EEO activities.
All right, the first page here is just a disclaimer, basically saying that I'm going to be using terms like exceed, at, or below 80% of census availability, or the term underutilization. It does not constitute a finding or admission of unlawful discrimination. These are just terms that are used in the affirmative action planner's environment. Go to the next page. Here you have a summary, a comparison of the goal that are established for each of the agencies for female and minorities. As you can see, we're still not meeting the goal for females in the workplace. We are below 80% of census availability, and minorities continue to exceed the goal. Okay, we could go to the next slide. In order to correct this, our roundtable recruitment has put together a document which is called the best practice hiring initiatives. Leon Goodman and Fred Gill are the drivers of this document, and I'm going to have them present.
We're not going to talk. There you go. Did it work? We're not necessarily going to talk about the document today because it has not been finalized yet. We want to meet with Diana Jones-Ritter to make sure that the information and the proposals that we've put together in the document are consistent with her line of thought, as well as we want to direct it to the directors of human resources across the agencies. So at this point, although the document has been finalized, we're not going to talk specifically to it as long as the chairperson is okay with that. We'd like to be able to talk about it at the next diversity board meeting if necessary.
Let me say that part of the strategy here was to create best practices, not only to do a more effective job in the recruitment and the hiring of of ethnic minorities and women, but to have one process. And so Diana and I was waiting for this document that was just submitted earlier in the day. Diana is now going to meet with all of the agencies, HR directors, and the agency presidents with respect to that. Leon is here to talk about a recent event that we were involved in called the Circle of Sisters, which is an expo that's sponsored by WBLS at the Javits Center, which draws about 45,000 people. One of the points that we...
Forgive me 1 second. Before you go to that, Mike, I trust that when we are ready to discuss this, we're going to have not only a pretty detailed breakout of how we go about recruiting, but also move away a little from the slide which has everything sort of collapsed, because the women numbers are pretty startling. The Hispanic numbers are equally startling. And I think we've got to have some more discussion about this, and not merely in this committee.
I think it's a very good idea that you have outreach to the agencies and their HR departments before everything is finalized, because obviously they're the ones that have to actually implement this. But I also think it would be helpful if at least the diversity committee members saw what it is you're trying to do. It might, first of all, it would help us understand it better. It would prepare us for the presentation when it is made, and perhaps we have some ideas or suggestions that might be helpful. Is that acceptable? So you can get that to the committee members, and then we'll have an opportunity to read it. That's appreciated because sometimes we get a great deal of material and very little time to review it. So as much time as we have ahead, we're happy for.
And I'm in agreement also. And one of the points that I was going to make out was that the led by Leon and his working group, that the agencies came together like they do historically in pulling this effort off at the Circle of Sisters. And mind you that these are only efforts to reach out in areas that we feel as though that we can improve numbers. So we'll be doing the same thing with the Asians and the Hispanics and every group that we need to reach out to in order to give the HR directors a broader pool to recruit from. So Leon is going to just give you a brief overview as to what happened at the Circle of Sisters.
Sure. Sitting with me is Fred Gill, who is one of my co-coordinators of the Circle of Sisters event. Fred is from Metro North. And I also want to make reference to Joyce Lee from New York City Transit, who was also one of the coordinators of this event. And what we decided to do was we worked with Michael to bring all of the HR people across the agency together to work on this event. And what was particularly important and what was particularly impressive about the Circle of Sisters was the sense of ownership that the respective HR professionals showed in terms of the kinds of responsibilities they assumed. Mike, did you get a chance to distribute one of these?
Yeah, we've got it.
If everyone has a copy of the brochure that we were able to get printed, the fine folks from New York City Transit helped us with this. But if you look at the brochure, the event took place on Friday, October 7th at the Jacob Javits Center, and we had some co-sponsors of not only governmental entities, but we also had contractors there to help us co-sponsor the event. On the employment side, which is what Fred Gill and I were primarily responsible for, we also shared the recruitment efforts with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. So they were there with us as well, and it gave New York residents who are looking at employment opportunities to not only meet with the MTA, but also the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, and talk about what jobs are available, how to apply for these jobs, and how to make themselves job ready. The most interesting and one of the components of this that we thought was particularly successful were the workshops themselves. And we meaning the professionals here at the MTA, we presented 4 workshops. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes and have Fred Gill join in with me as well. But we presented 4 workshops at the Circle of Sisters, and they were creating value in your resume, interviewing skills, dress for success, and the successful internet job search. Now, part of the rationale for that is, and which is also included in the document about our best practices and hiring initiatives, is simply that in order to get a job, you have to be prepared to get that job. And we understand the value in giving you the job readiness skills to make you marketable, particularly in this very, very competitive environment. So with us making candidates marketable, we see this as a twofold approach. Either the candidates will get a job here at the MTA, and they will successfully apply and become gainfully employed here at the MTA, or they will successfully apply someplace else, get a job there, and then if you think about how they're going to get to work, they got to use our means of transportation. So we benefit either way, whether they get a job with someone else or they get a job with us. There's a financial impact that comes to the MTA from the fact that they have to use our systems to get back and forth to work. One of the things that we talked about that we thought that was particularly important is that if we're going to prepare our citizenship, those in our recruitment area to become job ready, then we have to be determined to add value to the process. And in adding value, one of the things that Fred Gill and Joyce Lee and the peers on the recruitment side of the house that we talked about was going out in the community and making presentations on a smaller scale similar to what we were able to do at the Circle of Sisters. And we're calling this MTA in your community. And essentially, as Michael mentioned before, we're going to go to all of the communities in the tri-state area. We originally called it the MTA Pavilion, but we're actually going to go to all the communities in the tri-state area by invite, by the way, from community-based and professional networking organizations. and put on a smaller scale the same kinds of programs that we presented at the Circle of Sisters. We'll do the workshops, we'll do the resume critiquing if necessary, and we'll prepare the New York area citizens to become competitive in this job market if they're not competitive. Once we do finalize the document, you'll see that we have metrics that we'll look at to see just how successful we are in doing this. Fred?
The MTA community that Leon made reference to has already been done and tried. We've actually utilized that in Yonkers in the past and also in Norwalk, Connecticut, and most recently at the Circle of Sisters event. The success of it was phenomenal. Individuals walked away but with statements saying that they didn't anticipate receiving this information. They initially thought it was just a job fair, but they walked away with information on how to critique their resume, to make some changes within it, how to dress for an interview, the proper decorum they need to have. So we found that to be something that is necessary within the community that we're working with, and as Leon made reference to, it's a benefit for us. And we're going to be rolling it out to the various communities. In fact, most recently, it's intriguing that Leon received a call today, an email today about us desiring to go out. I received a phone call from someone. So the word is getting out about what we're doing, which is good, and as we now progress this to that next step in the process.
So did actual job interviews take place at this event?
The individuals that met with the different recruiters at the Circle of Sisters, they were informed as to how to apply for jobs online. If there were particular candidates, we set aside a networking area at the Jacob Javits where HR professionals are able to conduct one-on-one interviews on the spot if necessary, if they were particularly impressed by candidates.
And I want to thank both of you and the operating agencies for coming together in a very, very, very short period of time and coordinating this. I also want to thank Jesse Crawford and others in HR for their support as well. And I know that when staff is moved and taken away of your core duties and responsibilities, your day-to-day core duties and responsibilities, then that must be made up. And so we want to thank each one of the HR and the agencies for lending you to this very, very, very important event, knowing that this is only a vehicle that's going to help us in our hiring processes.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions? No?
I'd like to add something. I think over the last 3 years, we've spent a lot of time trying to think outside the box and develop new ways to reach out to minority contractors. And it's going to take that same kind of outside-of-the-box thinking in order to reach out and get our EEO numbers where we would like to see them. I'm glad to see that you're working at that, and I'm hoping that you'll continue to focus that way. I know this committee's now really focused on it, so it ought to be successful. I guess now.
Okay. Moving on to mid-year complaints. Between December 2010 and June 2011, MTA and its agencies handled a total of 326 EEO complaints, citing 507 separate allegations. Next. Thank you. Of the 326 EEO complaints, 172 were filed externally. That means at the city, state, and federal agencies. 154 were filed internally. Of the 326 external and internal EEO complaints, race, color, disability, and other types of miscellaneous discrimination was most frequently cited as the basis for the complaint. Next slide. During the first 6 months of 2011, MTA and its agencies handled a total of 17 Title VI complaints, citing 19 separate allegations. Of the 17 Title VI complaints, race was the most frequently cited basis for the complaint.
And Gwen, can you just give a brief overview of this document that was created that segregates the hiring deficiency with respect to each one of the operating agencies and in the actual job category for benefit of the committee?
Sure. The document that you received, I think it's about 6 pages long. A general overview or a summary of that document. What this document is actually saying to you is that females, Hispanics, and employees classified as others are most frequently underrepresented in the various job categories. As a matter of fact, they're underrepresented in each of the job categories. So we need to focus our attention on increasing our Hispanic population as well as employees that are classified as others, which is a very difficult racial group because that only came into existence in 2000, and some of the agencies have not gone back and updated the EEO questionnaires, and so that could possibly account for our showing an underrepresentation of employees classified as other.
We just got this today, so we need some time to look at it more carefully. I've seen similar reports in the past, but this is a good summary. It's the female and Hispanic issues very apparent in this.
Let me add my voice to it. This is a terrific summary.
Thank you.
And it reflects a lot of very good work that you all are doing. The question that emerges from this, however, is what are we going to do about it?
Right.
And I would expect, Madam Chair, we're going to get some recommendations.
Right.
Let me say that a conversation I had with outgoing Chairman Jay Walter. He basically indicated that if you look at his track record while he was here, he either promoted or hired a record number of ethnic minorities and women and put them in senior places. And he said that he did it for 2 reasons. The first reason he said he did it was because it's the right thing to do. The second reason he gave was that he wanted to lead by example. And so I believe that if Chairman Walter did this great, fantastic job, then we can do this agency-wide. Thanks, Gwen. Mentor program update. There has been a total of 27 contracts awarded for $15 million. 19 of those contracts have been awarded to a New York State certified MWBEs. Of these 19, 8 of those firms were also DBEs. They are approximately 127 firms who are currently in the program right now. There's a pipeline of 87 firms wanting to get into the program, and so we are currently vetting them right now. We have firms from each one of our counties, with the exception of Putnam, and we were there twice. We were there twice in the past year. So if there's any nonprofit groups that we can work with, we will be more than happy to go back up there again in order to bring firms into the mentor program. Based on our conversations with the FTA, we are currently working with them in creating a mentor program for our FTA-funded projects. We feel as though that this mentor program is a well-thought-out program. It is doing business differently. It is breaking down the impediments that allow small contractors to get into our process. And as a result, on our state-funded projects, we're seeing a large number of MWB firms being awarded prime contracts.
The slide you're looking at now is talking about addressing federal goals in federal and state-funded capital projects, and it lists some of the initiatives that we are undertaking to increase our participation by DBEs as well as MWBs into our projects. One of the small business mentoring program is one of the strategies that we're using to increase MWBE participation. This is a program currently for state-funded projects, and we hope to have a similar federally funded program, which will also help us increase DBE participation for similar type of projects which are federally funded. The other things that go with increasing MWB participation are access to capital, and we have talked about this before. Carver Federal Savings Bank is one of the lending institutions that is helping small business firms gain loans, and within and outside of the mentoring program. And the last thing that's mentioned here is the exclusion of certain items from our MWBE goal, which is pursuant to the state goal that we are setting. And the exclusion of certain items for which there are either very little or no possibility for MWB participation, because there are insufficient number of firms or insufficient opportunities for those firms, or there are no insufficient firms in the marketplace. So we believe that by excluding certain items, these items from our MWB program from goals, it would actually increase the participation rate, because currently when we do measure our MWBE participation, we are measuring it against all contracts which are awarded, so that creates a very large denominator. By excluding a large number of items for which we do not set goals, that will create a smaller denominator, which will give us a higher percentage of participation.
That's for like the billions of dollars that we buy in subway parts, bus parts, and other areas in which there are no MWDB firms in the marketplace. So the state has given us the opportunity to exclude those purchases out of our overall numbers, because you can only apply goals on products and services where there are certified minority women-owned firms in the marketplace.
So we've submitted a list to the state. We are awaiting their response this time.
You know, I understand why that's necessary, and in order to define a goal that's attainable and then really be able to hold ourselves to the measurement of that goal. But I also think that in doing that, we don't want to let go of the opportunity to make opportunities for minorities by working with our larger vendors to insist that they make space for minority vendors within their operation. I've had some concerns over moving towards design build, because we know that the larger the contract, the less likely a small business can take any part of it. And the only thing that would allow us to meet our goals under those circumstances is if we insist that those goals be met, or that we insist that those large vendors take on a mentoring program and assist a minority and a small business. So I don't want to give up that wrench, or whatever you call it.
And that's a great point. And both of the railroads wanted us to exempt rolling stock out of this process, and I refused. And so therefore, that's the reason why we're having conversations with all of our subway and bus manufacturers about creating a MTA minority program. Because if there aren't any firms in the marketplace, suppliers that can feed your manufacturing process, let's grow some. Let's create some.
We're doing that also, by the way, for bond counsel and underwriting?
Yes. Yes. There was a very extensive effort in our current RFP for legal services, and we basically got a list of MWBE law firms, encouraged them to partner up or to apply. And then, as you might be aware, the ex-chairman shelved the process, and so maybe it'll get back on track as we move forward. But no, there was a very intense focus of making sure that there was going to be MWB inclusion in our legal services, including bond counsels.
If we can have a report on that as well, like we do with everything else,
Great.
as a separate category.
Okay.
People who participate in underwriting as lead or co-lead or participating, bond counsel, that would be illuminating, I think.
You know, you are very timely because Pat McCoy just gave me a report. I wanted all of the fees that have been awarded to all of our underwriters, and I have that report, and so I can get it to you via email or to Susan.
Seeing the number and then seeing a separate breakout of the fees would be equally illuminating.
Great, it's done.
Thanks.
It's done.
Okay, good afternoon. With respect to our M&WDB participation as of June 30th, 2011, there were a total number of subcontracts at 4,576. The individual subcontractors that participated on the contracts actually was 1,144. Our inventory increased slightly from 1,033 to 1,058 for this second quarter. The M&WDBE participation, and I hope I'm not going too fast. Okay, the M&WBE participation, based on the original subcontract amount, we had approximately $2.7 billion. The current subcontract amount is about 2.8, and that number can vary based on changes in the contract. It could also be that negotiations in the subcontractor's agreement with the prime contractor, work could be added, work could be removed, so the number's going to fluctuate.
Hey, Cheryl.
Yes.
I'm going to actually that we pause there. I briefed chairperson here that we had a challenge in getting accurate data because our spreadsheets now are being worked on by an outside consultant. The data that we got, it was flawed. And if you turn to page 45 and page 46 and look at the MWBE subcontract payments, there's a total there that says $30.2 million. And I looked at that number last week, and that number could not have been right. And so our IT department reran the data, and as of this morning, the more accurate number is in a handout, is $61.5 million. So I'm going to actually, we pause here, give us a chance to vet this data out, and then by the end of this week, we will send you an updated package that gives you an accurate MWBE number. Yes, it'll be sorted by agency as well.
Thank you, Cheryl.
And so we went over the MWBE on our capital construction projects in CPOC.
Yes. So we're on to the task force.
Yes.
There is an interagency task force, and we've continued to work with them to try to come up with increased opportunities for MW and DBEs, and we continue to work with our agency procurement directors. We've regularly met with them to come up with ways to improve participation by MW DBEs. We have also revised our standard contract language. There was as you know, there were revisions in the state law, as well as there's new federal regulations that come about. So we incorporated that into our federal and state standard contract language. There is a procedure currently which being finalized, which will allow us to award purchases not exceeding $200,000 on a non-competitive basis to small businesses, including MWBEs, and this is pursuant to state law. We have finalized our all-agency policy directive to efficiently and effectively implement our MWDB program, and that goes and to allow contractor evaluation under the all-agency contract compliance evaluation system. And under that system, a significant non-compliance with MWDB goals and lack of good faith efforts on the part of the contractor may result in unsatisfactory overall evaluation of the contractor. So that is something new that we are implementing.
That I want to thank Jim Henley and his staff, Roberta Mull, Bender, and they worked real hard with Sam Schaffner at Transit in creating a new template and document, which is now going to allow us, the operating agencies, to buy goods and services under $200,000 by going directly to MWBE or small firms. That's state law right now. Also, I want to thank the legal staff also for allowing us to, for the first time in history, evaluate contractors with respect to their MWDBE goals achievements. In the past, contractors were evaluated with respect to one question. And the question was whether or not you submitted your MWDB goal plans on a timely basis. If the answer was yes, they got a passing grade based upon, regardless of how they did with MWDBE. This new system will allow us to evaluate the contractor as a separate category. And if a contractor receives a marginal or unsatisfactory evaluation, 2 out of the 5 criteria, they can be banned from bidding. And so now this for the first time in history, will give us enforcement teeth in order to work with our contractors to ensure that the goals that's being set are the goals that's going to be achieved.
Every year, we take a look at our committee charter and determine whether we need any changes to it. This has to be done at this meeting in October because it will go to the full board at the December meeting, and we are not meeting in November. I do not have a proposal for any changes to the existing charter other than the normal ones that you see with respect to
Well, there's a little bit here in
yeah,
title.
with respect to dates and titles.
Title, yeah.
Nothing substantive. But if you haven't had a chance to look at it and you'd like another shot at it, please let me know. I can always call a meeting to get together and just look at the charter.
I don't know if this is germane in at this part of the conversation, but the MTA-wide utilization analysis summary, that's a very good document, as I said a few moments ago. And it seems to me that this has to be discussed at our next month of committee meetings individually with operating heads.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's another venue for it, another method for it, but having this information is good, but unless there's some colloquy with the folks who are making the decisions in terms of their own operating companies, I don't see where we're going to get to some resolution on some of these questions.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry.
I can ask that it be a component of each of the operating agencies' agenda for next year. For next month.
That'd be terrific.
And, I don't think we're going to get a lot of time because November is also budget month, which is extremely difficult. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's necessary to bring it to their attention. I'm not sure that the process for reviewing the proposed outreach and hiring program is going to be sufficiently finished for us to talk about that. But at minimum, we can say this is an unhappy situation and we're not willing to see it continue.
Well, Madam Chair, this is, to me, this is like a crime number.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to the head of the New York City Transit saying, hey, crime's up. What are we doing about that? Females are down. What are we doing about that? It's got to be a part of that agenda, I would think. No?
We can add it.
Thank you.
Have a regular report. It means that you will have to attend, or the the HR person from each agency would have to attend, which isn't unusual anyway, so that would work, depending upon how you guys work it out yourselves.
That's great. Thank you.
Go ahead.
You know, it's late in the day, and I was thinking the legal department, and Rhonda Moll is sitting here right now, but I wanted to personally thank her for her hard work, not only with the helping us with the ACE document, but also the document which will allow us to comply with the new New York State law to purchase goods and services from MWBE and small firms without going out for bidding. And so I wanted to just thank her and the whole legal team and assisting us in getting that done, because that's going to be a very important tool for us to use to increase contract awards to state certified M and WB firms. So thank you.
Rhonda, I'm not sure that these two board members have ever met you, so at the close of the meeting, would you come up so that they could see who you are and get to know you a little bit? You have been immensely helpful to getting us through a lot of hurdles. Other business? Yes, sorry.
Just like to clarify, you were thinking of having the discussion with the agency presidents at the December committee meetings?
Well, I will speak with the acting chair, possibly the new chair, whoever is chair, and the agency presidents, and request that there be a report, just as we have a crime report on the EEO status. I'm not sure exactly yet what form that should take. I'd like it to be consistent among agencies, because when it isn't, it gets very confusing for us. And the extent to which that would be discussed may depend on whether we just have the numbers so that it's kind of an eye-opener to the other members, or whether we have the numbers and a plan to meet it. I suspect we're going to have the numbers first, and that will trigger the planning. Other business? Motion to adjourn for the day? Okay, great.
Very good meeting.
Thank you.
Good, yes.
I have something for you, but I
I
wanted
suppose it
to
would just
tell.
have to be the
well,
summary.
I'll
You
tell you
couldn't
this.
have them
This
go to
lady
all the details.